Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Unright. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. How's everybody doing? I trust everybody is doing just fine. Had a great weekend. It's still continuing. We still have a whole bunch of Panamanians in town, and we are going to our big Veterans Day Memorial March in Houston tomorrow. So today is their day of leisure as we continue with the program. Anyway, folks, how's everybody doing? I trust all's doing right. Welcome aboard. James Sodden on Substack, Wendy Bouzier, Mark Wright, thank you for being here. AVQ, number one in the queue as well. How you doing, AVQ? Patrick Magner is in the house. Michael Rudnan in the house. Egberto asking for one short video for the screen. This is a long list of Trump's insanity. Red hats will scream on and a TDS without hearing any of the, will scream on and about TDS without hearing any of it. He definitely having physical and mental medical problems, probably chronic venous insufficiency and frontotemporal dementia. You know, a lot of times you are seeing problems with your vascular system. The same thing that's occurring in your legs could be occurring in your brain, you know, but who knows? Anyway, Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas says, don't forget to say Happy Veterans Day as they provided the very freedom we all enjoy. I agree, but it's a lot deeper than that. Eric is in the house as well. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia, in the house. E2247 for everyone says, why did Durbin vote with the Republicans? So many Democrats are turncoats. But why did Durbin join them to send this terrible legislation to the House? Is this to force Johnson to convene the House? No. It's just because of Thanksgiving. That's why they did it. They fear what the people's response are going to be for Thanksgiving. That's it. And look, I don't have the right answer for what should have been done. I really don't. I see a lot of my progressive brothers and sisters going crazy about what's happening. And I see, you know, we are dealing with a different kind of president here. I want to ask everybody that is screaming right now. And like I said, I don't really have a position of dissent or anything because I will accept that I don't know what the right answer is as far as how long to take the shutdown. I don't know. Do we let the air traffic control system fail? Do we let airplanes crash? Do we let people's ire grow for Thanksgiving and those are being directed at maybe Democrats, even though because the Democrats are some of the poorest messaging characters? I don't know. I don't know. You know, sometimes I think we need to be humble and just say we don't know what the right answer is. In this case, for me, I don't know. I try to extrapolate. Let's not cave at all. Where do we go? What's going to happen? Do we reach a point of instability because of SNAP, etc., that we get that we give a further reason to create martial law because of the, I don't know. And I tell you what, if you guys do know, why don't you throw some commentary in the chat? Let me know what should be done. I am an activist for decades, and never in my lifetime have I seen such an evil president. And when you're mixing evil with those who are doing well for others, that's the question. Ray Brackens, how you doing, my friend?
I just wanted to make sure you finish your thought before I start talking, Egberto, because you was definitely hitting on the nail on the head.
Well, you know, I think there are times when one should be able to say, I'm ignorant to what needs to be done. And I don't have advice. I am ignorant here. I don't know. So go ahead, brother.
Yeah. to your point there, I was watching this guy, and I wish I'd have saved the video. Maybe I can go back and look at it, while I'm watching you. But this guy was like kind of I guess you could kind of say he had the typical redneck look. He was a white guy, very very down to earth looking guy, but apparently he had on his Harris Balls t-shirt, so he was a Democrat. And he said something that, maybe resonated with me in the sense that I looked at it from a different perspective. It's like he said, I know there's a lot of people that still had a bunch of fight in them about this issue, but at some point you have to come to reality that the person on the other side has no interest in coming to a deal. They're
Right.
willing to let everybody suffer. They're willing to let the air traffic control and all of the government workers who are not getting paid for their labor. They're willing to let all this crap go as long as they need to make their point. And it's like it's hard when you're on the side of, well, could we have fought harder? But at what cost? And that's what
Right.
I think it happened. It came down to it was like, okay, we tried to fight. We've used our last option of what we have being an opposition party. And, they wanted to end the suffering that already was happening. And then I've also heard that, people are using this disaster of a government shutdown to take away parts of the government they wanted to get rid of anyway. And I say all that to say, I don't know why anybody would vote Republican in this day and age, because a young man said it on TikTok, and I'm paraphrasing, but the Republican Party's answer to everything is to police it, to kill it, to incarcerate it. They talk about public safety all the time. They talk about crime all the time, when the real criminals that you need to be worried about are the ones wearing the suits and the ties with the briefcases, sitting in boardrooms,
Exactly.
deciding how our lives are going to be dictated and whether we should have clean water to drink or,
Exactly.
food that isn't poison.
Exactly.
Those people, they get to move through life, seemingly without consequence. And when it comes to Republicans and the Republican Party, they basically run on their entire platform is put me in government so I can break the government, so I can make the government less efficient and then prove to you that the government is inefficient.
The funny thing about it is actually you're actually right. They want to say government is inefficient by making it that way, and then put in the most inefficient form of handling public services, which is a private sector. And I repeat this, folks, and I'd like anybody who disputes this to call and we can talk about it. The most ineffective, the most wasteful way to provide public services is via the private sector, via private companies. Because when you provide a public service through a private entity, profit, shareholder value, dividends are all expenses. In other words, the revenue is your taxes, and to provide you that service, the expenses become the profit, and the shareholder value in the form of dividends, etc., becomes an expense on that issue. Revenue is the taxes, and the cost of the service proper, and the profit from the service proper becomes an expense. And, they snow us into believing all this stuff. Like I said, capitalism needs to be a tool, not an ideology. Hey, I need to continue the thing, the program now, but thank you. I appreciate it, my brother.
Thank you, Egberto, and just keep on saying knowledge, and I'll keep on listening.
Thank you, sir. All right. It seems like, let's see what it is that Brother Rudnan, he's brought us some good stuff over the last, all of the time. I shouldn't say, I should just say he's brought us good stuff over all the time. So bear with me, Radin. Let's see if I can put this up for you. Sorry about that, guys. Let's go and put it right here. And let's get it busy now. Let's clear that. And let's see if I can get it from the start. I hope this is good.
I'm no physician, but he clearly has some form of dementia. And just 24 hours prior to the wandering around lost with the Japanese prime minister, on Air Force One, he bragged about taking a animal identification test, a picture of a giraffe. He was able to choose it. And he bragged about that. And it's not, I turned on CNN this morning. I was like, is anybody talking about that?
Yeah. No.
Went to MSNBC, crickets.
We've normalized it. Everyone has, whether liberal, conservative. I've tried not to. For 10 years, I've tried to keep going, saying, I moved to this country in 2015, just weeks before he came down that golden escalator. My entire presence in this country for 10 years has been defined by Donald Trump being in our public scene and people normalizing what I see and many others see as clearly abnormal. And, you know, he goes on top of the White House and does a rant. He walks around the roof of the White House, got no coverage at the time. I remember doing a quick check of all the news websites. Who was saying, he's just wandering, an old man's wandering around the top of his house screaming about nuclear missiles. Even on that flight, Jennifer, on Sunday, he also talked about taking an MRI, and then he wouldn't say why. And I'm trying to think about another president, forget Joe Biden, any other president who could say, oh, I took an MRI, I'm not going to tell you why. I got shot in the ear, but I'm not going to release the medical records. I went to an annual check for my health, even though I already had one a few months ago. I've got weird blotchy things on my hand that make me look like someone out of Count Dracula. All of that has happened in the last few weeks, and yet we just carry on like normal, like the president is not having some kind of physical or mental health crisis.
And then not to mention, this gets buried all the time, but it's just something I try to bring up to the surface. He went on and on about the size of Arnold Palmer's cock. And within 30 days of that, Mehdi, he tried to give a microphone a blowjob. That wasn't working. And this just, any other politician, that would be career ending.
Oh, I mean, that's 10 years of this. And it's, again, you can't blame Trump, right? We go, oh, Trump. It's not Trump's fault. He is who he is. It's the rest of ours fault for enabling it, for looking away, for aiding and abetting, for moving on, for tolerating, for excusing. You know, the number of people, even liberals, who say stuff like, you'll tell them something. I'll tell friends of mine, Donald Trump just did this, and they'll just chuckle, say, that's who Trump is. We don't do that for anyone else.
Right.
How did this guy, how did the freak from Home Alone 2 get the special pass from the entire American public, American media, American political establishment? I mean, you talk about manhood, size of penises. He made fun of Marco Rubio's manhood back in 2016. I'm old enough to remember that. I know we will move on. Marco Rubio today is his Secretary of State, who stands silently and is perfected. Did you see him on Air Force One? He just stands there straight-faced as Trump rambles about the dementia test and how Jasmine Crockett couldn't beat him in a dementia test. And Rubio's just standing there.
That is funny. That is, I mean, I shouldn't say it's funny. That is funny if it wasn't so sad. That is funny if it wasn't so sad. Anyway, I want to continue with the program with first, let's go ahead and have a little immigration thing here that I want to play, and then I'll play the one that I did with Arnie Arnesen. But let's go with the immigration piece that I did a few days ago. This morning, I'm going to start not from our prepared newsletter, but I'm going to start from talking about immigration somewhat. As you know, you see all the nasty stuff these criminals, these legal criminals, these thugs are doing it. Max thugs are doing in Chicago and other places, beating people up, throwing them into cars, throwing them down. Yesterday, they went and they arrested a teacher on her way to school, where all her students could see her being arrested and manhandled like a criminal. That's what our government has revolved into. Well, recently, our good friend Lizzie, welcome Lizzie to Politics Done Right. How you doing, sis?
I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you so much.
Well, let me tell you, we are glad to have you here. I think this was a post that you recently put on our web, on our Facebook or something that got some traction. But
it is. I mean, it is important for people to know. Tell us a little bit about you, and then let's go into what you did.
Thank you again for letting me be on the show. Hi, Mayana. Hi, Jack. Good morning to you both. Essentially, I volunteered to produce a show on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. on KPFT. It's a call-in show, and it's the same number as Egberto's, and I invite everybody to call in about immigration.
Tell us about your show. Yeah.
Why did I do this? The reason I did this is because the news is it's coming out at the rate of a fire hose instead of a little garden hose. There's so much information. It is hard to digest, which is of course by design. Mm-hmm. When you create chaos, you can get away with a lot more. You can divert the attention of the public from things that are really horrible happening. So my main goal in this program is to give out some essential resources, not to be the expert, because I'm not an immigration lawyer, Egberto, and I'm not I don't work for an immigration advocacy firm. I'm a retired high school administrator. So my main goal was to give out resources so that if people have a question, they know where to go. Would it be okay if I gave out a phone number right now?
Absolutely. This is what we're here for.
Okay. There is something called the Houston Immigration Hotline. It's answered in a wide variety of languages, of course, English and Spanish, but languages from the Democratic Republic of Congo, from the Chinese languages, Mandarin, Cantonese, etc., all the languages. It's answered 24/7. Of course, they guard your confidentiality as a caller. The number is 1-833-468-4664. 1-833-468-4664. Do I work for this organization? No, I don't. But I know it's an organization that will give out free and reliable information about what to do if you're facing some kind of a personal challenge right now regarding immigration. So I made a post because, what happened was a couple of weeks ago, my daughter called me weeping, my adult daughter. She was on her way to my house to drop off my granddaughter. I care for my granddaughter 3 days a week. She was crying. She had seen something that she found shocking. When you see something on TV, there's a level of separation that you might not fully grasp the emotional impact of something that's happening. But when you see it in person, it's a really different experience. And what she had witnessed was the tail end of a major raid. I live in Southeast Houston, in the very near Woodridge and 610, where there's a Home Depot, and the raid was at Home Depot. And what she saw was women screaming and crying next to several work trucks that were now empty. And the narrative that she could put together that I think is true is that the drivers of those work trucks had gone to Home Depot to pick up,
construction supplies,
nails for their hammers, for their whatever. And there had been a raid, and their partners and their wives had shown up later, and there were their empty work trucks, and these women were absolutely bereft, and it affected my daughter very much. So I thought to myself, I got it. When your children, I know you know this, Egberto, when your children get emotional, when your children feel hurt, you feel it 5 times more, So I said, well, let me make sure to put the post of something called the red card and the number that I've already given on Facebook. And I called Marlo and asked her to put on the KPFT site. The KPFT Facebook site has received almost 1,000 comments and almost 800 shares of that post. So it got some attention. I feel like I'm talking too much, Egberto. Do you want to
No. I mean, not at all. I mean, you're providing us that information. In fact, I'd like you to tell us what's on the post as well.
Okay. What's on the post is something called the red card. The red card is a document, and it is a card like a business card size little piece of cardstock that the design is that one would carry it in their purse or their wallet so that if they're faced with immigration agents, they can show the agents their red card. The red card only delineates the rights that a person has. A person, I didn't say citizen, I didn't say legal permanent resident, I said person. Persons have rights under the Constitution. So the red card was developed in the early 1970s, and it was part of something called Know Your Rights training for immigrants, which continues now and happens at least weekly by organizations such as Fiel and other immigrant advocate organizations. It has, again, the rights, and if you like, I will talk a little bit about those rights.
Please.
Okay. Well, the rights are they're the constitutional rights, and let me also say that the most frequent comment that I've seen in response to the post is that persons who are undocumented, sometimes called illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, whatever, persons who are undocumented are not protected by the Constitution. That is false. The Supreme Court, there's two major cases.
Rulings.
Again, I'm not an immigration attorney and I'm not a constitutional expert, but just for my own research, I found that there's two cases, Shaughnessy versus United States and Plyler versus Doe, which guarantees persons who are on this soil that there can be no deprivation of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Plyler holds that unlawfully present aliens are entitled to both due process and equal protection under the 14th Amendment. So, what's on the red card? I've got it here, and I'm scrolling down. I know that the first thing that's on the red card is that people have the right to remain silent, always. Obviously, when you're presented with someone that has a mask on and no indication of what law enforcement agency they're with, but they're demanding you to get on the ground, or they are threatening you with handcuffs and et cetera, and using very aggressive language, it's hard to stay silent. But you have the right to stay silent. If they arrive at the door, you have the right at your home, or they're knocking on the door, you have the right to not open the door. These are all things that are on the red card. Unless you must open the door unless they have a warrant that is signed that has your name on it. So if they came to my door and it says Lisi and it's signed by a judge, then they have to open the door. So many people believe that this is not true, that this is some kind of a progressive lie, or not even progressive lie, just immigrant sympathetic lie, and it simply is not. I am looking for the red card. It's early in the morning. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, not a problem. Let me just say that I think it's important as you look. Let me just say this as people need to know what is really the right thing to do, because a lot of people that are getting arrested or thrown to the ground, they don't know what is the right thing for them to do, what is legal or what is just hearsay. And one of the reasons I think your show is so important, and also the post that you place on the Facebook at KPFT is so important, is that it actually points out to people, these are the things that you must do. And again, if the agent doesn't follow these particular rules, then what? And I don't know. I'm going to leave that to you to explain. Continue, please, Lizzie.
Well, I don't know what. The only thing I can think of is that perhaps in the future there will be some kind of a reckoning. Perhaps these agents. Now, see, I really think this is so terrible, but I really think this is why they're wearing masks, so they can escape later retribution for really ghastly illegal behavior, violent illegal behavior.
The good thing about that, I like, is that a lot of people are doing deep searches to find out who these thugs are, so that when we have a real administration that believes in the Constitution and believe in legalities, will really, like I've said in many of my shows, there must be all these criminals out there that are arresting people illegally, all these criminals out here, both in the Trump administration doing what they're doing. It is time for us to start amassing the information, because they must all pay a price. This fever is going to break. This fever is breaking. They will pay a price. Continue, sis.
Well, I want to ask you a question. Sometimes I wonder if there's going to be a time where there'll be a reckoning. Do you think there will be a reckoning?
Yes, there will be a reckoning. Let me tell you something, okay? And I speak to a whole lot of people. And yesterday, it's amazing you asked that, right? Because I was speaking to a woman at a protest yesterday, and she said, "Is this all for naught?" And I'm like, "No, it's not all for naught." And I said, "You want to know how I know that? Because we got in one cycle, not even in a half a cycle, what occurred in that election throughout the country." Everybody's concentrating on New York, Virginia, New Jersey, and California.
Right.
That is not where that's not where the real thing happened. The real thing happened in Georgia. The real thing happened in Mississippi. The real thing happened in these deep red states, when the full state had to vote on something, or where areas had to vote on something, that change occurred. And that has the right now in a panic, but it's too late, because the people have already woken up. This is going to get worse. In other words, the torment from the federal agents is going to get worse. They going to different places, it's going to get worse. But we have to keep the pressure on with the civil, peaceful protests that we're doing. We have to keep the pressure on, and the people have got to continue coming out to vote. We are winning this thing. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah. Well, it's just emotionally exhausting, and I really understand that woman's fear, because sometimes I falter. Sometimes I think, oh my gosh, this is just, when is it going to end, or is it going to end? So to review what's on the red card, which so many people on Facebook had huge problems with, but these are rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution, and were they were held up by the Supreme Court in those two landmark cases. Do not open the door if an immigration agent is knocking on the door. Don't answer any questions. Remain silent. Do not sign anything without first speaking with a lawyer. How do you find a lawyer? You call the Immigration Resource Hotline at 1-833-468-4664. Now, obviously, this is going to take, in that moment, you're not going to call the immigration hotline, because at that moment, it's a moment of crisis. So what the Post said was, please prepare, particularly if you have children. In the case there's a family separation, there's got to be a plan. And unfortunately, we saw that family separations they happened in the first Trump administration, and they're happening now. Tragically, there are children that were separated from their families from the first Trump administration that have never been reunited with their families. I mean, is there any way to exaggerate the impact of that? I don't think so. I think these children's lives and the families' lives were destroyed. So if you're outside your home, ask the agent if you're able to leave and say yes and leave calmly. Please try to stay calm. The level of violence has been frightening, and staying calm might help the agents to also keep their vibrational level calm, and they will also stay calm. You may say, I do not wish you permission to search any of my belongings based on my Fourth Amendment rights, and I choose to exercise my constitutional rights. And again, you can show the card. So another thing that the people on the post, respondents from the post said, again, almost 1,000 comments, were, what difference is this card make? They're still going to hurt you. I guess my particular hope is that that the agents will take a breath, that they will uphold their promises as a law enforcement officer, as peace officers. You can talk about whether or not that's ironic or not, but I believe people are fundamentally good, and perhaps this will add a layer of protection or give you a few minutes to get sort of your head together. But the most important thing is to have a plan, particularly if you have children. Call 1-833-468-4664. They can help you develop the plan. They can help you find a lawyer if that's what you need. They can talk you through what your options are. The immigration law is really very complicated. There's lots of ways to have entered the country legally, and even have a visa overstay is considered a illegality. So there's lots of ways to be illegal
violation.
as well. It's a civil violation.
Yes.
So, but it's not being treated that way anymore as a civil violation. It's being treated as a serious criminal violation. Witness, of course, the fact that there is a proposed idea that undocumented people no longer are given bond. That's being argued in the courts. But think about it. You're a person on your way to work. Maybe you're a legal permanent resident. Maybe you're a brown person who was born in this. Maybe you're a citizen. Maybe you're a brown person that was born in this country. You're on the way to work, and you're minding your own business and you're taken in. You don't have what is being proposed is that you don't have access to bond. It's being argued in the courts, but right now you're not given bond. It's really kind of amazing. ICE argues that people that have been picked up are not eligible to ask an immigration judge for release from detention on bond. So even if they have spent years inside the country living an upright, moral life, even as you say that they're citizens, they may not be given bond.
Yeah, well, that is sad. Let me ask you, Lizzie, to please go ahead and tell us, because I know you do a show every week where you cover these issues. Please tell folks how they can get to your show and talk to you every week.
It's on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. And the point of the show is not for me to talk. It's for my guests to speak. I hire immigration attorney. Sorry, why did I say hire? I don't know why I said that. I ask to be on the show immigration attorneys. I don't hire anybody. Please, I don't know why that word came out of my mouth. I'm a volunteer. There's no money being exchanged between anyone. I ask experts such as Cesar Espinosa of Fiel, such as Edgar from the ACLU, immigration attorneys, immigrant advocates, to come on the show and tell us what they know and tell us how we can all stay safe. 9:30 a.m. on KPFT, the same number as Egberto, 713-526-5738 to make a comment. We welcome comments and questions. I hope that you all will call. I so much appreciate your time, Egberto, and I listen to your show all the time.
I appreciate you, sis, and this is an important subject that I am glad that we were placed in contact to do this, because And by the way, you have an open door into the program whenever you have something to say, because this is important and this is what we're all about. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So,
thank you.
Por estar aquí. I am so kind. Thank you so kindly for being here with us. And, we'll keep talking, and thank you for the work that you do. It is such important work, my dear.
Se lo agradezco muchísimo. Hasta luego.
Te hablo más tarde. Ciao.
All of our countries' problems. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought we needed to bring it out. I wanted to clean it up a little bit better, but I ran out of time. I just drove back into Kingwood from the west side of town and had to get this all prepared. So forgive that. I have another video that I just prepared as well with an interview that a panel that I appeared on. I've had my section of the panel out there, and in the blog, I'll put a link to the entire show from Arnie Arnesen, the Attitude. I'm going to play that now, and then we'll continue with the show, if I can get this out here now.
So I'm going to go to you, Egberto. And the reason I want to go to you is that, so we're talking about what's going to happen and about the Voting Rights Act and about, people of color, and that maybe they'll have, National Guard around voting places. But we've already started this because of Texas. Because between Texas and California, what we know is the gerrymandering wars are now really defining us. So the problem becomes also is that a lot of people are going to think they have to wait until November to get a decision when they're going to find out, because of a gerrymandered district, it's way past them because it was decided in the primary. Now, here's my question for you, Egberto. So I know that they're reconfiguring what the districts are going to look like. I also begin to wonder, sometimes we hear, okay, they created a 4% edge for Republicans or a 5% edge for Republicans because they're so gerrymandering everything to try to pack things together. That still doesn't mean that a Democrat can't win, because it just means they have to win by 5 percentage points or 6%. So we end up giving up because we hear it's gerrymandered. And what I'm looking at them going, develop a voting muscle. All right. Just frickin' show up, because it turns out it's not ruled by the majority. It's ruled by the minority that shows up and votes. Well, guess what? That's your responsibility too. I understand the fear, Lincoln. I get it. But you know what? I think it's time for us to figure out, what does courage look like, Egberto?
Let me first say, I love what Lincoln had to say, and I wish Lincoln was on all over the place saying that, because the defeatist attitude that we hear, the defeatist attitude that we hear, is amazing. Can you hear me now? The defeatist attitude that we hear is not what we should. Let me give a good example for Texas. For Texas, we had John from right here, who actually ran in a plus 10 Republican district that was gerrymandered and won by 2 percentage points. The thing about it is, the way these things are drawn, it is based on who voted in the past.
Right.
Now, if we go ahead and take a look at what happened over the last several days in the No Kings March, we see that a lot of people came out that we don't know where they came from. I'm in the very red district called Kingwood, and we had so many people, we didn't know where these people came from. They all lived here. They all lived here. They're independents and some Republicans, and now they despise the government and they will be voters. This district is no longer secure for Dan Crenshaw. So what we're saying is, you hit it on the nail, and the preamble that you gave before I came in is what I think more people need to hear. You don't take a defeatist attitude that says, oh my God, it's gerrymandered, thus we can't win. It's gerrymandered. What it really means is we have the opportunity to win in districts we didn't have an opportunity to win in before.
We're continuing our conversation with Stephen Pimpere, Professor of Public Policy and Director of the Master's Program in Public Policy at Vermont Law and Graduate School, Philippe Delahaye, a contributing editor for the New Republic, Lincoln Mitchell, who teaches political science and public policy at Columbia University, and Egberto Willies, who is the host and producer of Politics Done Right, aired on the Pacifica Network on KPFT in Houston. So your number came up, Egberto. And so we've been talking a lot about, the fact that they are weak. And the reason why they are doing everything simultaneously is that they figure out that that is a sign of strength. But in some ways, it's also a sign of flailing. All right. And yet at the same time, here's my problem with the Democratic Party. My problem with the other side is they think they can only do one thing at a time. All right. They only need to focus on one thing at a time. And I think they also need to understand that they need to multitask. Yes, you need to criticize Trump. Yes, you need to talk about the effect on the economy, but then you need to offer them, what the H are you going to do? So I don't want to hear how bad everything is. I want to know really, and what is your policy prescription to fix it, and do it for me so I understand, whether it's for a rancher, whether it's for someone in the energy business, whether it's for someone who wants to, is worried about losing their health care. We can't just talk about how horrible he is. We have to talk about the fact that I don't want to go back to the past. I want you to tell me how you've improved the future.
Exactly. Look, I wrote a piece yesterday with respect to No Kings. But before I go there, I want to say that with the panel, I love that idea that these folks have to understand that there is a penalty that has to be paid.
Yes.
In other words, we need to start putting the fear in them. One of the things when you speak about them being weak, if you take a look at Steve Bannon yesterday talking about there's a way for him to get a third term, they are trying to throw this out earlier than they expected to do it because, in fact, they are weak and they're trying to lay the foundation. But you mentioned what the Democrats are going to do. One of the things that I say is, if we take a look at policy that people actually want, I don't care if you're a MAGA, I don't care who you are. There are some basic policies that all Americans want when they know it's not a progressive policy or anything like that. Let me ask a question. They closed 3 hospitals in Virginia recently because the administrator said specifically it's because of the big, bad, ugly bill. Why wasn't Hakeem Jeffries and all these guys in Virginia in front of the hospitals closing and saying, this is what the big, beautiful bill did? We had a hospital that closed out here up the road in Texas. Why wasn't any of these guys in front of the building saying, this is what would happen? Now that we know that SNAP is going to be cut, instead of going on to MSNBC, CBS, and ABC, why aren't you at the offices where all these MAGA folks go to get their stuff and say, guess what? Courtesy of the bill, this is what's going to happen to you on November 1st. Why aren't they saying, why aren't we having plastered all over the place that on November 1st, when you see those farmers who are going to be out there getting their new costs for their health care on the exchange, it's going to affect MAGA more than it's going to affect any of us.
I know.
Why aren't we? I mean, I look at this as a perfect opportunity. I look at the 1,000 people that we brought out in Kingwood, where we've never brought out more than 100 before, 1,000 people in Kingwood. And these people are talking about these things. Even the No Kings March hadn't yet come to grips with the things they need to talk about.
So, Egberto, so as I'm thinking about this, again, I'll go back to No Kings. And I saw a couple of old guys wearing their uniforms. And one of the old guys wearing his uniform goes, I am the definition of Antifa. I fought the fascists once. I fight the fascists again. We need to see that over and over again. We need to see those veterans because we still value, and I look at my 2 uncles who died in World War II, my husband in Vietnam. I mean, I just look at all these things and I'm thinking, we even need to take the words back. Because what Antifa means, it isn't a group. It is people that believe that fascism needs to be defeated. And let me introduce you to my grandfather and my father, because that's exactly what they did. So they take words away. They take definitions away. They turn dissent into violence. I mean, look what they're doing. But I think that really then almost becomes an imperative for us to not only own the words, and to some extent, as you pointed out, Lincoln, look what Zoran is owning. He goes, sure, call me a democratic socialist. I mean, I think you're probably right. Zoran and Arnie are very, very similar. Was I a democratic socialist? Who knew what I was? But did I believe in free childcare? Did I like free buses? Yeah, I like that too. So it's interesting to me, Egberto, that they know how to use the words and we don't know how to own them.
Well, let me first say that you used the words earlier. When you brought out 51,000 people, I could immediately tie that to 51,000 people dying because of policy. According to Lincoln, which is quite accurate, it's actually quite a bit more than that. And then you tie that into where we're trying to promote things. War in the streets of America for crime that isn't near the amount of crime you're committing with your policies, right? If we go ahead and add up policy debts and then crime debts that are generally localized, etc., we don't know we have not successfully made the point. That I can cut that little segment that you just did with the policy debt 51s, plastered all over the place, and most Americans would be like, I can't believe that is happening. I can't believe that is happening. That is where we fail. We fail to articulate exactly what is happening in a form that the average American citizen can understand. We don't have to get high and mighty with words. All of us here can do that. But we can also just show them the bodies that are laying down there. I want to add a quick thing here with what Lincoln had to say, whether Mandani is just like the other Democrats. I beg to differ a little bit. I don't think he is. I think what he really is he's saying something that I mentioned earlier. He understands that what we need is a bifurcated economy. Capitalism not as the ideology, but capitalism as the tool. In other words, capitalism where it belongs, but where it doesn't belong, healthcare where it doesn't belong, in a place, in a food desert, it needs to be mitigated. And that, I think, is where he as a Democrat is different than all the other Democrats.
Okay, so Philippe, you're going to be the final talker here. And as we're looking at all of this, what is so shocking about this conversation, everyone, is how much opportunity has been presented. I mean, this is, in some ways, this conversation is a celebration of what is possible. It's a celebration of where we can go. It's what he is doing. I mean, when I can call a Texas rancher and say, so honey, let me take you out for lunch, because I think we have something in common. But guess what the Texas rancher has in common? It's not just the tariffs. It's not just what he wants to do with importing beef. It's what he's doing to the cost of everything that they need to do to feed their damn cows, okay? And what he's doing to the fact that they can't afford their health insurance, and what he's doing to the cost of their electricity, because they still have to support their farm. And so by the time you sit down with them, and here's the point, what am I saying, Philippe? You have to be with them. You have to talk to them. We've just basically carved out areas that we think we don't need to belong in. Well, you know what? There isn't one area he hasn't destroyed. That means there isn't one place we shouldn't be.
I wanted to frame what she just said there. That one statement. And, as I'm re-listening to it again, I'm like, who could have put it any better than what we heard from Arnie Arnesen from The Attitude? That last statement is magic. And if every Democrat holds on to that, we don't win. We win in a landslide. We have to go to everybody. We have to address everybody. We have to meet wherever everybody or anybody is. That is where we've got to be. Arnie Arnesen, that you nailed. Anyway, Michael has another video. I hope it's under 2 minutes. Let's see. Yeah, we can do that. Hold on a second. Let's do it. Come on. Let's go ahead and play. Michael, find these good videos for us and TikTok. I love TikTok. If you address TikTok intelligently, it will reward you. Let me tell you that. These algorithms. I don't know how long it's going to do that because it's now owned by, well, you know whom. Let's get busy. Go.
Revealed these text messages from a Border Patrol agent who appeared to be bragging about his accuracy after shooting a woman 5 times. So you see this first message. It appears to be him sending this Guardian article talking about this case with the follow-up message saying, read it, 5 shots, 7 holes. And then there's this next message where he says, I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. And as the agent explained, this was a message to a group chat full of other agents. And when he was pressed on whether he was actually bragging, he responded, I take pride in my shooting skills. This is all tied to the case of Marimar Martinez. She is the woman accused of allegedly ramming her vehicle into a Border Patrol agent's vehicle before that agent got out and started shooting her. Now, she is okay, but she's been charged federally and has pleaded not guilty. But as these messages were being revealed in court and the agent was talking about it, Marimar Martinez was sitting there as this agent didn't back away from these messages where he appeared to be bragging about his accuracy and shooting.
Now, when you hear me address ICE as thugs, I am not doing it lackadaisically. I'm not doing it like, I'm just trying to express these words for some clicks. I mean it. ICE agents are thugs. They are thugs given a license to be illegal. Okay? Everything that they do comes out of the behavior of thugs. The chat already explains it. You can see it in the chat. Hey, I shot, like the bragging. I shot 5 shots, but I got it to hit some bones in such a manner that, bam, we got several exit wounds. We're talking about a human being here. These are thugs. And more of you out there that are listening and should be making the rest of our people aware to consider these guys thugs. And you protect yourself from thugs. You try to keep your presence away from thugs. Let's go a bit further. We must identify by all legal means necessary who these people are. And these people must further never be employed by a humane, moral person, company again. They have forfeited or should be considered a forfeiture for further employment unless they atone publicly and pay a price. These are legal thugs. And it's imperative that we put that scarlet letter on them, that we mark them as the thugs that they are. Anyway, we're at the end of the show. Michael, thank you for those good videos. For all of you listening, Joe from California, Los Angeles, thank you for being here. Beautiful. Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Maywood from Long Beach, California. Welcome aboard. I don't think I saluted you yet. Paul Fleming, I think I got you from Powder Springs, Georgia. I want to call out the people that come and listen to me. I want, when I can, to be able to say thank you, guys. PJ Schuster, thank you for that. Cece from Cincy, thank you. Lady Historian, welcome aboard. Lynette, welcome aboard. If I miss you, forgive me. Jane B. in North Carolina, welcome aboard. Teresa Savino, welcome aboard. Pamela Walter-Kent, welcome aboard. Lisa Randall, welcome aboard. Lori Ripley, welcome aboard. Wendy Boussier, L. Joseph Rosas the third, welcome aboard. Arthur Friedman, thank you for being here. Bruce, my brother Pollard, my brother from another mother. And of course, there's our resident lyricist, our resident limerickist, or whatever you call it. Andra Barnes, thank you. Judy, Sandra McSwain, Julia Frisk, Tony Charbonnet. Almost sound like Chardonnay. All right. Aline Fushilo, Mark Wright. Thank you all for being here, guys. Love you all. Anyway, folks, got to close the show down. I want to invite all of you who are not currently paid subscribers. Look, we make sure we are being a part of the system that's going to challenge the mainstream media that has failed completely in informing folks and encouraging folks and doing the things necessary for change. And we're not going anywhere. But to stay not going anywhere, we need your support. And we can only do that for those who become paid subscribers. So please consider going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. If you're already on Substack, just click subscribe to become a paid subscriber. But politicsdoneright.com/newsletter gets you to our link that allows you to choose to become a paid subscriber. We cannot do this without you. We just can't do it without your small contributions. That is what allows me to go out there and do what I'm doing. And if you take a look at our website, egberto.substack.com or egbertowillies.com or politicsdoneright.com or all these other areas, that is how we get the job done. It's all about you, your support. We only have allegiance to you. All right, gotta go. Look, folks, love you all. Remember, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to support or to get to the newsletter. Or you can email me directly at info@politicsdoneright.com, info@politicsdoneright.com. By the way, I should put this out here because some people don't want to give through Substack. I want to give you this link here because how you can find any way to provide support. We have a lot of different ways for people to provide support. Let me make sure this is the right link that I have here. That is, it is. So the following link as well has all the different methods of supporting what we do here. So there we go. And I'll put that in the other link as well. Anyway, folks, got to get out of here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.